The air snapped with the crackle of a bonfire, its amber glow clawing at the dusk as laughter and clinking glasses filled the garden. 8-year-old Lila, the youngest of the sprawling Harper clan, darted through the crowd, her white dress fluttering like a moth's wings, unaware that tonight would stitch her to a legacy she couldn't yet grasp. Then, from the shadowed edge of the reunion, her grandmother Eleanor emerged, her frail frame trembling with purpose, clutching something that glinted in the firelight, a relic that would unravel a family's buried truths. The Harper family reunion was a tapestry of chaos and joy, held every 5 years in the sprawling backyard of their ancestral home in Vermont. Rows of picnic tables groaned under platters of cornbread, grilled peaches, and Aunt Marla's famous blueberry pie, while cousins chased fireflies and uncles swapped stories of their youth. Lila, with her wild curls and gap-toothed grin, was the darling of the evening, weaving through legs and dodging hugs with the agility of a fox. She didn't notice Eleanor watching her from the porch, the old woman's eyes sharp despite the years etched into her face. Eleanor, at 82, was the family's quiet sentinel, her presence often overlooked amid the boisterous crowd. But tonight, she carried a weight heavier than the cane she leaned on. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruises of purple and gold, Eleanor began her slow descent from the porch. Each step was deliberate, her gnarled hands clutching a small velvet box. The crowd parted instinctively, sensing something momentous in her measured pace. Lila, oblivious, was giggling with her cousin Timmy near the bonfire when Eleanor's shadow fell over her. The girl froze, her laughter catching in her throat as she looked up into her grandmother's face, a face that held both tenderness and an unspoken urgency. "Lila, my darling," Eleanor said, her voice a low, trembling thread. She knelt, wincing as her knees protested, and opened the velvet box. Inside lay a delicate silver brooch, shaped like a crescent moon, its edges worn but gleaming with a strange, quiet power. The crowd hushed, sensing the gravity of the moment. "This was your mother's," Eleanor whispered, pinning the brooch to Lila's dress. "And her mother's before her. Now it's yours." Lila's fingers brushed the brooch, her young mind grappling with the weight of the gesture. She barely remembered her mother, Clara, who had died when Lila was 3, taken by a sudden illness that no one spoke of. The family had buried Clara's memory as swiftly as her body, leaving Lila with only fragments of lullaby, a scent of lavender, a fleeting warmth. The brooch, cold against her chest, felt like a key to a door she didn't know existed. "Why me, Grandma?" Lila asked, her voice small against the crackle of the fire. Eleanor's eyes glistened, but she didn't answer. Instead, she stood, her gaze sweeping the crowd, lingering on faces that suddenly seemed guarded. "It's time," she said, loud enough for all to hear. "Time to tell her the truth." Murmurs rippled through the family. Lila's father, Daniel, stepped forward, his face pale. "Mother, not now," he said, his voice tight. "She's too young. She's old enough to carry it." Eleanor snapped, her frailty giving way to steel. "She's a Harper, and this is her birthright." The air thickened with unspoken questions. Lila clutched the brooch, her heart pounding as she sensed the family's warmth curdle into something else, fear, perhaps, or shame. Before anyone could speak, a new voice cut through the tension, sharp and unfamiliar. "Eleanor's right," said a woman stepping from the shadows near the garden's edge. She was in her 50s, her hair streaked with gray, her eyes piercing as they locked onto Lila. The family gasped, some whispered her name, Margaret. Lila had never seen her before, but the way Eleanor stiffened told her this was no ordinary guest. Margaret, Eleanor's estranged daughter, hadn't been seen at a reunion in decades. Her sudden presence was a twist of the knife, a reminder of old wounds the Harpers had tried to forget. Margaret knelt beside Lila, her expression softening. "That brooch," she said, "isn't just a keepsake. It's a promise. And a warning." She glanced at Eleanor, a silent challenge passing between them. "Your mother, Clara, wore it when she made her choice. Now it's your turn to understand what it means." Lila's eyes darted between Margaret and Eleanor, confusion knotting her brow. The family stood frozen, the bonfire's light casting long shadows that seemed to pulse with secrets. Daniel reached for Lila, but Margaret's hand shot out, stopping him. "Let her hear it," she said. She deserves to know why Clara died. The words landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples of shock through the crowd. Lila's breath hitched. The brooch felt heavier now, its crescent shape burning against her skin. What choice had her mother made? And why did it feel like the answer would change everything? The bonfire's glow seemed to dim as Margaret's words hung in the air, each syllable a spark threatening to ignite the Harper family's carefully guarded past. Lila stood rooted, her small hand clutching the crescent brooch, its edges biting into her palm as she stared at the stranger who claimed to know her mother's secrets. The family's eyes were on her, but it was Eleanor's trembling silence that weighed heaviest, as if her grandmother were bracing for a storm only she could see. Margaret straightened, her gaze sweeping the crowd like a judge passing sentence. "Clara didn't die of an illness," she said, her voice steady but laced with pain. "She died because she chose to protect this family, and that brooch was her shield." Gasps erupted, and Daniel's face twisted with anger. "Enough, Margaret," he shouted, stepping between her and Lila. "You left us. You don't get to come back and tear us apart." "Left?" Margaret laughed, bitter and sharp. "I was driven out, Daniel, because I wouldn't keep quiet about what Clara found." She turned to Lila, her expression softening again. "Your mother discovered something about the Harpers, something they've hidden for generations. That brooch isn't just jewelry. It's a marker, a symbol of a pact made long ago." Lila's heart raced, her young mind struggling to piece together the fragments. "What pact?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Eleanor finally spoke, her words slow and deliberate. "It's not a story for tonight, Lila. But you need to know this. The brooch protects you, but it also binds you. It's been passed down through the women of our family, each one carrying its burden." Her eyes flicked to Margaret, a flicker of regret passing between them. "Your mother, Clara, was the last to wear it. She paid the price for our silence." The crowd was restless now, uncles shifting uncomfortably, aunts whispering behind their hands. Lila's cousin Timmy, usually her partner in mischief, stood wide-eyed, clutching his mother's arm. The reunion's warmth had evaporated, replaced by a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn night. Lila felt the brooch's weight, not just on her dress but in her chest, as if it were sinking into her very being. Margaret knelt again, her voice low so only Lila could hear. "Your mother found a book," she said. "A journal, hidden in the attic of this house. It told the truth about the Harpers, about a deal our ancestors made for wealth and safety. But every deal has a cost, Lila. Clara tried to break it, and it broke her." Lila's eyes widened. "What deal?" she pressed, but Margaret shook her head. "Not here," she said. "Not with them listening." She glanced at the family, her expression hardening. "They'll tell you I'm crazy, that I ran away because I couldn't handle the truth. But I left to protect you, Lila. You were just a baby then." Daniel's voice boomed. "That's enough." He grabbed Lila's arm, pulling her away from Margaret. "You're scaring her. This isn't the time or place." But Lila yanked free, her small frame trembling with defiance. "I want to know," she cried, her voice cutting through the tension. "What happened to my mom? Why does everyone keep lying to me?" The family fell silent, stunned by the ferocity in the girl's voice. Even Daniel faltered, his anger giving way to something softer, guilt, perhaps, or fear. Eleanor stepped forward, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. "You'll know, child," she said. "But not tonight. The truth is heavy, and you're still so young." Margaret scoffed. "She's stronger than you think, Mother." Clara was, too. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn key, its surface etched with the same crescent shape as the brooch. "This opens the attic," she said, pressing it into Lila's hand. "When you're ready, find the journal. It's still there." Lila's fingers closed around the key, her mind spinning. The attic? A journal? A pact? The words swirled like leaves in a storm, each one pulling her deeper into a mystery she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. The family watched, some with pity, others with suspicion, as if Lila had become a stranger in their midst. As the night deepened, the reunion limped on, but the joy was gone. Lila sat by the bonfire, the brooch and key heavy in her hands, her thoughts a tangle of fear and curiosity. Margaret had disappeared into the shadows as quickly as she'd come, leaving whispers in her wake. Eleanor sat beside Lila, silent but steady, her presence a quiet anchor. "You don't have to decide tonight," she said softly. "But when you do, I'll be here. Lila nodded, but her eyes were on the house, its darkened windows staring back like eyes guarding a secret. The brooch felt warm now, as if it were whispering to her, urging her toward a truth that might break here or make her whole. Lila woke to the creak of floorboards in the old Harper house, the crescent brooch still pinned to her dress, now crumpled from sleep. Moonlight spilled through her window, casting jagged shadows that seemed to writhe with the secrets she'd glimpsed at the reunion. Clutching the key Margaret had given her, she felt a pull toward the attic, as if her mother's voice were calling her name from beyond the grave. The house was quiet, the family scattered in guest rooms or gone home after the reunion's abrupt end. Lila slipped out of bed, her bare feet cold against the hardwood as she crept toward the attic stairs. The key felt alive in her hand, its crescent etching pulsing with her heartbeat. She didn't know what she'd find, but the weight of the brooch and Margaret's words drove her forward. The attic door loomed at the end of the hall, its paint chipped and handle rusted, as if it hadn't been touched in years. She turned the key, the lock grinding before giving way. The attic smelled of dust and time, its air thick with the ghosts of forgotten things. Moonlight filtered through a cracked skylight, illuminating trunks, old furniture, and stacks of yellowed books. Lila's heart pounded as she scanned the shadows, half expecting Margaret to appear again. But she was a loner, so she thought. As she rummaged through a trunk, her fingers brushed a leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with the same crescent moon as her brooch. Her breath caught. This was Clara's journal, the one Margaret had spoken of. Lila opened it, her hands trembling as she traced her mother's handwriting, elegant but hurried, as if written in a race against time. The first entry was dated 10 years ago, when Clara was still alive. "The Harpers are cursed," it began, "not by magic, but by greed. In 1850, our ancestor, Abigail Harper, made a pact with a man who promised prosperity. In exchange, every generation must offer a sacrificia daughter to carry the brooch and guard its secret. I found the truth in this attic, and it's tearing me apart. I can't let Lila pay the price." Lila's stomach churned. A sacrifice? Her mother's words painted a picture of a family bound by a deal they didn't fully understand, a legacy of wealth stained with loss. As she read on, Clara's entries grew frantic, detailing strange dreams, whispers in the night, and a growing sense that the brooch was more than a symbol. It was a tether, binding the wearer to the pact's consequences. A noise behind her made Lila jump. She spun, clutching the journal, to find Timmy, her cousin, standing in the attic doorway. His eyes were wide, his pajamas rumpled. "Lila, what are you doing up here?" he whispered, his voice shaking. "I saw you sneak out. Grandma told me to watch you." "Timmy, you don't understand," Lila said, holding up the journal. "This is about my mom. She didn't just die, she was chosen. For something awful." Timmy's face paled, but he stepped closer, his curiosity outweighing his fear. "Let me see," he said, taking the journal. As he read, his expression shifted from confusion to horror. "This can't be real," he muttered. "A pact? A sacrifice? That's crazy." "It's not," Lila said, her voice fierce. "Margaret told me. And this brooch," she touched it, her fingers trembling. "It's part of it. I need to know what it does." Timmy hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but we're in this together. If this is true, we can't trust anyone, not even Grandma." His words stung, but Lila saw the truth in them. Eleanor had known about the brooch, the pact, and Clara's death, yet she'd stayed silent. Why? Together, they pored over the journal, finding entries that spoke of Abigail Harper's deal with a shadowy figure known only as the Keeper. The pact granted the Harpers wealth and influence, but every 50 years, a daughter had to wear the brooch and face the Keeper's judgment. Clara had been the last, and she tried to break the cycle, hiding the journal to protect Lila. But the pact's price was steep. Clara's life, taken not by illness but by the Keeper's unseen hand. As dawn broke, painting the attic in soft gray light, Lila and Timmy made a pact of their own, to find the Keeper and end the curse. But as they slipped back to their rooms, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that the brooch was watching her, its crescent shape a silent warning that the truth came with a cost. Lila clutched the journal to her chest as she and Timmy crept back to her room, the house stirring with the first sounds of morning, clinking dishes, murmured voices. The brooch on her dress felt heavier with each step, as if it were absorbing the weight of her mother's words. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was a Harper, bound to a legacy that demanded her courage or her life. In the quiet of her room, Lila and Timmy spread the journal's pages across the floor, searching for clues about the keeper. Clara's final entries were cryptic, written in a trembling hand. The keeper comes at midnight, where the old oak stands. The brooch calls him. I tried to destroy it, but it won't break. Lila, if you find this, run. Lila's throat tightened. Her mother had known the end was coming, yet she'd fought to protect her daughter. The thought fueled Lila's resolve, but fear gnawed at her. Midnight was only hours away. Timmy, usually so carefree, was solemn. We need to find that oak, he said. If the keeper's real, we have to face him. For your mom. Lila nodded, grateful for his loyalty, but her mind raced. The old oak stood at the edge of the Harper property, its gnarled branches a fixture of her childhood games. Could it really be the key to unraveling the pact? As the day unfolded, the family went through the motions of breakfast, but the reunion's warmth was gone. Daniel watched Lila closely, his eyes shadowed with worry. Eleanor, too, seemed distant, her gaze lingering on the brooch as if it were a ticking bomb. Lila avoided them, slipping away with Timmy to the library, where they pored over old family records. They found a faded map of the property, marking the oak as the Sentinel, a name that sent chills down Lila's spine. As dusk fell, Lila and Timmy snuck out, the journal and brooch their only guides. The oak loomed in the distance, its silhouette stark against the twilight sky. The air grew thick, the brooch warming against Lila's chest, as if sensing the approaching hour. Do you feel that? Timmy whispered, his voice trembling. Lila nodded, her heart pounding. The world felt smaller, as if the night itself were closing in. At midnight, the air shimmered, and a figure emerged from the shadows. A man, or something like one, his face obscured by a hood, his presence heavy with an unnatural stillness. Lila Harper, he said, his voice a low hum that vibrated in her bones. You were the brooch. You've called me. Lila stepped forward, clutching the journal. I know about the pact, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. My mother tried to stop it. I'm here to end it. The keeper tilted his head, his eyes glinting like stars in the void. The pact cannot be broken, he said. Your family's prosperity comes at a price. A daughter, every 50 years, to renew the bond. Your mother refused, and she paid. Now it's your turn. Timmy grabbed Lila's hand, his fear palpable. She's just a kid, he shouted. You can't take her. The keeper's gaze shifted to Timmy, and for a moment, Lila thought she saw pity. The brooch chooses, he said. But there is another way. A life for a life. Someone must take her place. Lila's breath caught. She looked at Timmy, then back at the house, where Eleanor stood in the distance, her silhouette frail but resolute. Had her grandmother known this moment would come? Before Lila could speak, Eleanor's voice rang out, clear and strong. Take me, she said, stepping forward. I've lived my years. Let Lila have hers. The keeper paused, as if weighing her offer. Lila's heart broke. She couldn't lose her grandmother, not after losing her mother. No, she cried, tearing the brooch from her dress. I won't let anyone die for this. She hurled it at the oak, and to her shock, it shattered, a burst of light erupting from its fragments. The keeper staggered, his form flickering. The bond is broken, he whispered, his voice fading. But the cost remains. With that, he vanished, leaving only silence. Lila fell to her knees, sobbing, as Eleanor and Timmy rushed to her side. The journal lay open beside her, its pages blank now, as if the truth had been released. The Harpers' wealth might fade, but Lila had freed them from the pact's shadow. As dawn broke, she felt her mother's presence, a whisper of pride in the morning breeze.